Good morning. It's day 26. It's a Sunday. A little after 9 o'clock in the morning. I just left my campground and I am headed east-southeast to some ancient site that just was recently announced as a World Heritage Site here in Ohio. It has to do with Native American mounds. I thought I would take a look. There's a tropical storm moving up the eastern coast of the United States, so my trip east is stalled for a day or so until that kind of clears out. It's supposed to clear out by Wednesday at the latest, but it reaches way back into Pennsylvania, maybe even to a little part of Ohio. So I'm going to kind of take my time today heading north, eventually northeast in Ohio to a campground, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do tomorrow, hoping that it'll move out a little faster than what they anticipate, and I can kind of follow it out, stay behind it. I'm going to try to stay out the highways today. I've done enough highway riding the last few days. It's actually quite nice. Still in the farm fields, but at least there's a few curves and elevation changes. Very nice. I really appreciate these kind of rides after riding in the interstate. May not look like much, but it's been a good ride this morning. Gone through a couple little towns. Roads are in really good shape. Very little traffic. And it's just been a really nice motorcycle ride. Downtown Newark. Kind of a medium-sized town. Getting close to the heritage site. So this is what I know so far. This site was built around 400 AD, and some of it deals with alignments with lunar activity done by the ancient Native Americans. Apparently there's a large circle, and on the inside of the circle there is a ditch, a water barrier. They're not quite sure what the symbolic reason for it was. This whole complex is apparently several square miles. It includes all kinds of different earthworks associated with it. This map, for what can be seen on the video, is based on surveys that were done in 1847, and apparently some of the mounds have since been destroyed. My understanding is that this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So here's the inner ditch that runs around the inside of the wall. You can see the site is very large. And then circles back here to my left. Take a walk around the inside perimeter. Again, this is 400 AD. So that would put it 1700 years ago. Apparently one of the oldest, if not the oldest, earthworks in the United States. So I'm in the middle of the Great Circle Earthworks, which is part of the Newark Earthworks. The Newark Earthworks consists of 3 different earthworks that are within a 2 square mile area. So the moat goes all the way around right next to the wall. You can see the people with the dog walking right near the opening in the Great Circle. These 3 mounds in the middle were excavated in 1928, and the archaeologist who excavated found that there was the remnants of a historic structure within that area, and apparently the ancient people took that structure down at some point and then raised these 3 mounds in its place. They're not really sure what the purpose of the structure was. This is all prehistoric, of course. The circle is 1,200 feet wide, 370 meters. Just to give us some sense of scale. The moat is, they're saying, is 5 feet. It looks deeper than that to me, 5 feet or 1.5 meters. And the walls they're saying are 8 feet or 2.4 meters high. Again, the walls look a little higher than that to me. But combined, that would put the total at 13 feet from the bottom of the moat to the top of the hill. Must have taken quite a few people quite a bit of time to make those walls. So maybe I will head over to the Octagon Earthworks and take a look at that. All right, here is the Octagon Earthworks, the second of the 3 earthworks that are available to visit. It's right next to a country club. Here's the Circle Works that I went to. Now up here at the Octagon Works, there are golfers on the course, so I'm only allowed to go on the platform. Octagon Earthworks includes nearly a perfect circle 1,050 feet in diameter and an octagon more than 1,500 feet across. They think that this may have been built as an astronomical observatory because many of the walls and gateways are aligned to points on the horizon marking the key moon rises and moon sets in a complicated 18.6 year lunar cycle. Alright, so we're here. It's just a straight wall here to my right, straight wall here in front of me, and then the circle begins. So you can see the straight wall over there to my right makes an angle here to another straight wall, and then over there where that dead tree is located is where the circle starts and works its way up and around. This is a good view here. They actually put the tees right in the middle of the 2 parallel lines that run up to the circle. But you can see the circle heading off to the right and the circle's heading off to the left, again back where that dead tree is. It's actually a pretty good view. I don't know if I'd want to be standing here when somebody's teeing off. Unless they're a good golfer. Well, actually a man and a woman are coming this way. Alright, so that was pretty interesting. Especially here in the United States, something that ancient. Saw some ancient structures in the southwest United States, but never here in the Midwest. But I've expected to find something like this. And it's good that they've more or less preserved it over the years. I'm going to get on the bike. There's a couple museums I may try to visit. The problem is that they don't open until 1 and it's only a little after 11 o'clock. I'm going to figure out how far they are and what I'm going to do in the interim. I'm kind of taking my time today because if I make my way too far east, I'm going to run into rain, so I'm trying to avoid that. Alright, enough of the prehistoric. I'm going to head to John and Annie Glenn's museum, about an hour ride from here. It's the home of John Glenn, American astronaut and U.S. Senator from Ohio. I just finished a book about John Glenn in the last couple of months and saw that this was kind of on my path, so it doesn't open until 1. I've got about an hour ride, so I'll grab something to eat and wait for it to open at 1 once I get up there. Headed east on Route 40, which is described as a National Historic Road. I believe this is downtown Zanesville. Still 15 miles to go. Just past the 44,000 mile mark on this bike. 44,007 miles. So you say, how many do you add so far on this trip? Well, I've added 6,550, let's say 3, since it's about ready to switch over. So, the 2020 model put to service in March of 2021. I still probably have 600 or 700 miles to go to get home. This is the National Road and Zane Grey Museum. I have not read Zane Grey, but I am interested in what it means by National Road. Museum doesn't open for another 45 minutes. National Road crosses 6 states, Baltimore, Maryland to East St. Louis, Illinois. The road fulfilled the dreams of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson to build an all-weather route across the Allegheny Mountains, connecting the eastern seaboard with the Midwest. The road was the nation's first federally funded interstate highway and opened the West for the movement of people and goods. Construction began 5 years later, 1811. The Act of Congress in 1806 authorized the construction of the National Road, required that mile markers be placed at regular intervals. These reassured travelers they were following the correct route. And they also indicated the distance traveled and the distance to a destination. This is among the oldest surviving rivet-connected worn pony truss bridges in Ohio, and a good example of a bridge type commonly used in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Look at all the rivets they placed to reinforce it. And a few bolts, too. All right, onwards to the John and Annie Glenn House and Museum. New Concord, the home of John and Annie Glenn. There it is, the John and Annie Glenn Museum. Not quite open yet. See if I can find myself something to eat down here. It's almost 3:30. I arrived at John Glenn's boyhood home shortly after 1, planning on spending an hour there. But they had a film, a 20-minute film, which summarized John Glenn's life, which was quite good. And then the first floor, they had a period actor who acted as John Glenn's dad, who was very knowledgeable about John Glenn. And then they had a second docent that was upstairs that was similarly very knowledgeable about John Glenn. So between what they presented and all the dozens of questions that I asked, ended up being there over 2 hours. Really liked it. I think that John Glenn is a true American hero. He had a very interesting life. World War II veteran, Korean War veteran. Obviously flew as the first American into orbit, let alone all the work that he did as a U.S. Senator. And then when he was in his 70s, taking another space flight aboard the shuttle. So he had John Glenn had a very full life, very interesting life. These guys were on top of their game, and it was quite an enjoyable experience. This Highway 83 is a nice ride for a motorcyclist. More importantly, it's the first curves I've really run into. It seems like quite a while. Now I am on Route 93, heading northeast. It's a great ride too. Lots of twists and turns and elevation changes. Wasn't expecting this kind of a ride today. Atwood Lake Park. It's a little suspicious there whether I was on the right track or not, because there were no signs. Oh, it's nice. And it's supposed to be a huge park. There's a nice reception area here. It looks like it's closed. Here we are at Atwood Lake Park in Ohio. The office was closed when I arrived, but a friend and ranger who had connectivity brought me back here and showed me some of the sites that were available, so I picked this one. Camp is all set up. It's a little bit before 6:30. Chicken salad croissant, some popcorn, sweet tea. Atwood Lake. Good morning. Day 27. It's a Monday. I'm headed to Bald Eagle State Park. It's about 5.5 hours ride from here if I stay off the interstate. Most of these units, as you can see, it's just jam-packed with RVs. Most of them are vacant. There's a couple people around last night, but I think these are all long-term campers, and they all got their little carts to move around, and I guess they treat them like vacation homes. And I got to stop by and pay my due here at the main desk. They're supposed to have opened at 8. Not sure if I'm going to be able to avoid the rain today or not. It's really hard to tell. There's like rain in front of me and rain behind me, and maybe if I'm lucky I'll be in between those two bands of rain. Tomorrow I think it's going to be dramatically improved. So as long as I can get through today, getting poured on, it will be successful. Last night I got when I was at the ranger station, which was closed, I was approached by a police officer who works this campground because it's so large, and he and I chatted, and he was all excited about the motorcycle trip and wanted to do something like that. He's a younger guy, but he ended up giving me an escort back to my camp. He said, well, there could be places out there on the peninsula, and if you'd like me to show you, we can ride on out there. So I rode behind the police escort. Didn't think until later that I should have had him turn his flashing lights on so that whoever was in the camp thought that some VIP was showing up. And this is why I use tires that have some off-road capability, because every once in a while I run into stuff like this, and it just gives me a little bit of extra confidence to have a good tread on the tire. This wouldn't be a bad road if I weren't fully laden, but with a heavy bike, its heaviness becomes very apparent. It starts wiggling back and forth. They always say not to keep a death grip on the handlebars, so let them float a little bit. But it's really hard to do when you're worried about losing control. Well, hopefully that's the last of it. Alright, thank goodness. Good to put that behind me. Thanks, Garmin, for once again taking me on a road that I asked you specifically not to take me on. I always get lured in though. You know, there was kind of sections of pavement, a little bit of gravel, and then before I knew it was full-blown gravel, and ended up doing a couple miles like that. Certainly slow going. And there were all kinds of deer running out too. I must have seen 3 sets of deer running out across my path as I went down that unused road. Here we go. Fresh tar, loose stone. Nice. At least they give a warning on it. Big turkey vultures. Holy cow. That's a big bird. Well, after over a half an hour of riding, I am still working my way around Atwood Lake. That gravel road slowed me down and didn't really take me, I don't think, in the correct direction at the end of the day. I'll have to look at a map. Problem with the screen on this GPS is it's so small, it's really hard to tell anything. Well, it's good riding again. A $1 toll. Across the bridge, take steel grate the whole way. I had to stop and find my wallet, and I only had a 20. I didn't have a single, so I backed up traffic behind me. But what are you gonna do? They wanted their $1. dollar, I got my crossing. Pennsylvania is a big state, east to west. I'm going to be in Pennsylvania the rest of the day and a good chunk of tomorrow. Well, I was wrong. I thought I was going into Pennsylvania. This is actually West Virginia. My state crossing indicator, my GPS, which is really there to tell you about the laws for helmets, said that I was going changing states, and so I assumed I was going into Pennsylvania. But then it came up again at 3.5 miles. Only a mile or so after the first one disappeared, and it's like, well, that's weird. What's going on there? Well, it's a little sliver of West Virginia I'm going through. So this is West Virginia, and I'll be going back or into Pennsylvania in 3.4 miles. Alright, so goodbye to West Virginia, hello to Pennsylvania. I'll be in Pennsylvania for the rest of today and a good chunk of tomorrow. Still have 197 miles to go to the Bald Eagle State Park. My GPS is saying if I stay off the interstate it's 4 hours and 29 minutes. I just entered the Moshannon State Forest. So, the moment of truth. What can I do here at the Bald Eagle State Park? Well, it looks like you might be able to pay when you get here. Sites are reservable. Check bulletin board at contact station for available sites before setting up. It looks like they have a list of sites available. All right. Yeah, let's see if I can go through that routine. Hi. Hello there. Tried to pick out the most level spot. Fortunately, it's near somebody else, but I want to make sure I have a good night's sleep tonight, given how much distance I have to ride tomorrow. Right here. My tent will go right there. It's a little awkward, I gotta back it down, but it's been raining off and on, but I got the tent up and my gear is dry on the inside, so I'm good until the morning. Gonna eat dinner and call it a day. This may be the final dinner for this trip. To make it home tomorrow. I was originally gonna have a hot dinner, but with the rain and everything, I thought it made more sense to have something cold. So I got a 6-piece nigiri, sushi, a banana, some peach iced tea, and a cheese bagel with jalapeno peppers. And somewhere in the dry bag is a muffin, double chocolate muffin for dessert with some milk. So that's Bald Eagle State Park. It rained all night. It's raining now. It stopped for about 45 minutes. So I was able to get my tent down, get a quick breakfast. I walked over to the showers and put on my rain gear. Got myself all squared away. Supposed to stop by the time I get towards the eastern end of the Pennsylvania border, but until then I think it's going to be a little tough. Especially if I run highway, which I think I'm going to. At least I'm going to try, see how safe it is. If not, I'll get off. There's a dramatic time difference between highway and not. It's like 4 hours to get home on the highway and about 7 or 7.5 if I take the back roads. So I'm not sure how much safer the back roads are going to be by doubling my exposure to this weather. So it's going to be a challenge. There's no doubt about it. Today's we'll see what it's like towards the end of the trip, though. My experience is the sun always comes shining out sometime during the last day of the trip, and it makes me want to do some more. But right now it's pretty miserable. Hopefully it's safe out there. After 2.5 hours of rain this morning, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. I finally was able to strip off my rain gear. I'm in New York and have about an hour to go. My home in Connecticut. And the sky is starting to clear. The sun's starting to come out, just like I predicted this morning. It's always like that on the last day of a long trip. It's been a great trip, 28 days. Over 7,000 miles. I broke 7,000 miles this morning, but didn't have the camera on because it was raining. At camp last night, I put together a whole list of things that need to be done for the bike for maintenance. From looking at the chain and sprockets, seeing where those need to be replaced again. Needs a new air filter, oil change. Need to check the chain alignment, because that was done by eye at the service shop in Winnipeg, and I really want to check to make sure that it's in line with the tool that I have. Tires are starting to get worn out. I probably get another 1,000 or so left on those, so I'll probably go through the winter with those and replace them sometime in the spring. And the biggest job is going to be going back in and looking at the clearances on the valves to make sure that they're still in spec after I re-shim them at about 20,000 miles, and where I'm at 40, let's see what it is now, 44,604, so it'll be close to 45,000 miles. After 28 days, only one day of which I don't think I rode my motorcycle. I was at my brother's. I am back in Connecticut. Every other day, 27 days, I rode my motorcycle. I have to do a calculation to see what the average daily ride was. So that's it, 7,206.2 miles, 44,660 on the bike. It's about 2:23 in the afternoon, day 28. So that concludes day 28. It's a great trip. In years to come, I'll think about the beauty of Lake Superior and the national parks up in western Canada, the waterfall at Yoho, the huge mountains at Banff, and the serenity of Jasper. And then, of course, in the United States, I'll think about the museums that I got a chance to visit, the ships, the two ships up in Michigan, the Edson, the post-World War II destroyer, and of course Silver Sides, the Gato class submarine on the western side of Michigan. And then down in Ohio, I got a chance to see some of the great feats of aviation, especially at the Air Force Museum, Neil Armstrong's museum, and John Glenn and Annie Glenn's museum in Ohio. Along with getting a chance to visit my brother in Ann Arbor and seeing the Natural History Museum there, which I had never visited before. So it was a great trip. Look forward to my next trip. I have no idea where that's going to be at this point, but not going to be anytime soon, so it'll be sometime in the spring of 2024, assuming that I can do that. That's the end of this adventure out to Western Canada and back. 28 days. Fall zig. Thanks for watching.